This is Expedition Texas, the podcast, presented by Crazy Water. Hello and welcome once again to Expedition Texas, the podcast. I'm your host, Bob Malden, as always, and we are presented by Crazy Water. And today's podcast a little bit different than the ones you've heard these first four or so that we've done, because today we have taken this thing on the road. This is going to be a regular feature of the podcast. We will take this thing on the road a lot, but today you'll see, if you're watching it on video, and you'll hear as you listen, that we're in a little bit different environment today. We are in Mineral Wells, Texas, in the pavilion area of the Crazy Water Hotel, right in front of the Crazy Water Coffee Bar, and I'm joined by our guest today, Carol Elder. Hello, Carol.
Hey, how are you?
Doing very well. So we've known you for a while now.
Yeah.
We've worked together on Expedition Texas and Main Street Reborn and some other projects down through the years. And not too far from here, I spoke at the Mineral Wells Chamber Banquet about a year ago, and I feel like Mineral Wells is kind of a second home to us.
Yeah, you're a regular fixture here.
I visit a lot. I know my way
We'd
around
love to
now.
have you.
I love it. But we're here in front of something that when we first visited this thing about 4 or 5 years ago, that none of this was open. There was nothing going on in here. It was all a dream to bring this all back, and they've done that. And at the time they had their fingers crossed about a crazy partner they wanted to have at the coffee bar, or the water bar, I guess it was then, if they ever opened it back up, and they have. And I have a feeling that Crazy Water was the partner they were wanting.
We were. It just makes sense for Crazy Water to be back in the bar that it was built for. So and also bring Crazy Water back to its roots and its beginnings.
Yeah, it's very cool. And so history is literally all around you anytime you come to Mineral Wells. And what's really cool about the Crazy Water brand, which is what we promote because it is you guys are our title sponsor for the new Expedition Texas podcast. And this is a kind of a special episode. We made the trip out today to do this episode because there's a lot going on, and we wanted to get you on the show, but it's hard to get you to the studio in Tyler. So I thought, let's just take the studio to Carol.
Well, I greatly appreciate that. No, October is definitely the craziest of crazy months. We have our Crazy Water Festival is just next week. So
yeah, that's coming up very soon.
Yes.
We are getting this together and out so that people can hear about it before it happens, and plan now to make that trip. So tell us first, give us kind of the overview before we get too far into this of the Crazy Water Festival. We're going to talk more about it later on, but as folks get into these early minutes of the podcast here, we want them to plan on being here for the festival. Tell us all about it.
So this year will be the 44th annual Crazy Water Festival, and it's basically Mineral Wells' festival. So it's a hometown festival. It's a kind of a collaboration of like 10 different nonprofit groups that come together. Crazy Water, we are kind of like the organizing entity of it, and then we partner with different nonprofits for all the profit centers. And so like the entry fees, they go to Backpack Buddies and Center for Life. The 5K run helps fund the holiday decorations, Mary Wells Festival. The beer garden is Knights of Columbus. The street art is a local school program, so on and so forth. So every bit is ran by a different nonprofit, and the monies go in to support their projects and their throughout the county.
Very cool. And what are some activities and the dates that folks can look forward to coming out and being a part of this big festival?
So it'll kick off on Thursday, October 10th, and that is with Josh Abbott Band, and then also a local musician, Grant Gilbert. Okay. And so it'll be the first time Grant's come back since he's kind of hit it big, probably like 4 or 5 years.
Cool.
And so we're excited to have them. We'll have like 1,300 people out at that concert, so it'll be our biggest concert ever. And then so that's Thursday night. Friday is a car cruise. We have a vintage car cruise that goes through town, and then we'll have like a crazy beer walk throughout town. So they'll do different different cocktails and foods made out of Crazy Water at different restaurants in the downtown area on Friday night. And then, of course, Saturday is the festival. So we'll have a 5K race. We'll have a car show. I think last year they broke a record of like almost 300 cars. And so it used to be just one little strip. Now it goes down like 4 blocks. So
Wow.
it's a great car show, 5K. We have about 130 different vendors, from handmade crafts to some crazy foods, and
Awesome.
so it's a good day.
Sounds crazy.
It is
Sounds crazy.
It's a crazy good day.
We're going to get back into that, talk more about the festival here in a little bit. Folks have heard me now for a few weeks talking about Crazy Water on the podcast, obviously, and they know kind of now my affinity for number 4. It's my favorite, but there, and I do my best to explain with the knowledge that I gained, because after we've told this story a few times, I kind of have it in the back of my head. I know it, but it's always the abbreviated version, and so this is the chance. And when we started the podcast, we were looking for, and I had my eyes on you from the beginning, because we were looking for a sponsor that had history, that it wasn't just another brand on a shelf, that there's a story. And I can't think of a better story than the story of Crazy Water and Mineral Wells, Texas, and all that happened in this town because of water. And I wondered if you could kind of tell us, and we're not hampered by TV time here. We can expand, we can tell the full story, the story of Crazy Water.
So we are very honored to be just a little, glimpse of its history at this point. So this year is our 25th anniversary of owning Crazy Water, like October 1st. So it was like, it's like, it seems like yesterday, but then it also seems like a lifetime ago.
Yeah.
But in the whole timeline of Crazy Water, you're just a blip, know, and so Crazy Water was first discovered in the 1800s, and it was kind of discovered by a family of settlers who were pushing through, trying to find a drier climate for better health.
Okay.
And so because of Indian raids, just the east side of the Brazos River, they decided to hold up in this valley where Mineral Wells is now, and they made it their homestead. And so for the first few years, they were hauling water from the Brazos River, and for their crops and for themselves and for their livestock, until one day a well driller came by, trained them a set of oxen to drill a well, and when they drilled it, it had this really funny taste and odor to it. And so they were afraid to drink it, because back then there weren't like labs to send things off to, and there were like a such thing called poison wells.
Yeah.
And so they fed it to their livestock, and after it didn't kill their livestock or make them sick, they started drinking
let's
it.
test it on the cows.
And probably not the whole herd, maybe just one or two of them.
Yeah.
And it didn't harm them, so they decided they would start drinking it. And by this time, Mrs. Lynch was bedridden with rheumatism, and so she was unable to work the farm. And so within just a few weeks of starting to drink the water, her rheumatism started subsiding. The kids all became a little bit perkier, and Mr. Lynch had stomach problems, and his stomach problems kind of went away as well. And so because you didn't have doctor's offices then like you do now, when people heard of folks getting medicinal cures from a place, like most time it's around a water source, let's be honest, and they would start flocking to those places. And so people started flocking to Mineral Wells by the droves. They were camping, and at any given time within like a year, there'd be like 1,000 people camping at Mr. the Lynch's homestead. And
now, was there a Mineral Wells
it was
at
just,
that point?
It was just a homestead.
It was just a homestead.
Just a homestead. We had Palapinna County. It was a county seat, but there was not a town here.
Okay.
And so he purchased like 140 acres for his homestead, and that's kind of where everyone started coming. And then just because of when you come, you start camping, people, they need some supplies. Maybe their wagon broke, maybe their bridle broke, or so it literally became like a boom town. They're like, if you can afford a nickel for a cup of water, you can probably afford a hotel room. And so they started popping up hotels, and first, like, the hotels were even like in tents.
Wow.
And so within just a few years, Mineral Wells was just a boom town for the water. And because the Lynch family was running out of water every day, other water companies, they were buying land, like, oh, I'm gonna make myself a nickel a cup full as well. And so within just a short period of time, there were several people, lots of companies getting water, and they started bathing in it. And then it grew into bathing and taking drinking and bathing in it, which is kind of unique because most mineral water sources, you either bathe or you drink. But here, because it has such unique mineral combinations that are good to absorb through your skin, also to ingest and take internally, they did both. That people would come here from all over, and then they would want it shipped wherever they lived, and so they started like dehydrating it down to a crystal, and then there were rail car lines being built out this direction. And so before you knew it, Crazy Water was being loaded up onto box cars and being shipped all across the United States.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's crazy. And well, hey,
it is crazy.
That's a good thing. But yeah, so let's get a little sciencey here,
okay.
Because I know that you have to, as now the bottler of Crazy Water, you have to know this type of stuff. What was the different taste and smell that he noticed about the water when he drilled that first well? What exactly was going on there?
So, like in modern day, we can, without filtering out the minerals, we can filter out tastes and odors. And so if you have like a well water that has heavy mineral or a sulfate in it, it'll have kind of like a rotten egg kind of smell.
Yes.
And so they're able to filter that kind of smell out. But then also it's just chock full of like bicarbonates, magnesium, calcium, sulfates, which helps with the stomach, and different things. So that's kind of what you're tasting in there. It's just the combinations of minerals. And so if you take like a modern day sports drink that is just like an electrolyte drink, a mineral water is what that is founded based off of. It's just the most natural form of that sports drink.
Okay. So that first well that he dug on his place back then, is that well still in existence?
It's capped. It is downtown. It's like has a historical marker on it.
Okay, so it is marked. Cool.
The Lynch Well.
Oh, the Lynch Well. There you go. And so that's where originally everybody flocked to. And then fast forward a little bit, Mineral Wells is now bringing in people from all over the place. And somehow the word crazy gets associated with this water. And there's a story behind that, too. It may be urban legend. It may be fact. You might can clear that up for us. Tell us the story of the Crazy Well.
Well, as legend goes.
All good stories start this way, folks. As legend goes.
As legend goes.
And she does it very well. You have to do that again. That's really good.
As legend goes, there was a lady who came to Mineral Wells, and she was a little bit cuckoo, maybe a little demented.
Yeah.
And so she would sit or go to this well every day, and they would draw her up a glass of water, and within just a short period of time, like her crazies just disappeared.
Really?
And so it became known as the Crazy Woman's Well, and then the Crazy Well, and then now the Crazy Water is kind of how it evolved.
Now that well, because I'm all into historic locations, you know, that well, is it still here?
That well is not.
Okay.
We have one well on the property here at the Crazy Water Hotel, which
Yes.
was one of the wells used.
Okay.
But I don't think that was the original Crazy Well. And so what it is, it's like it's kind of like the strata underneath the earth, like that you get these different pockets. And so that pocket of water was found at probably like 150 feet deep.
Okay.
On a hand dug well. And so those pockets kind of had that strength of water to it.
And I believe that is the well we took a peek at when we toured the Crazy Water Hotel.
Correct.
Those years ago,
correct.
we lifted up a grate and were able to look down and see where the pipe went down into the ground, which is kind of cool, interesting stuff here. And so much of this history is still a part of Mineral Wells, but there was another explosion that happened. I guess it was all part of the same explosion, but you talked about hotels originally being built and or maybe even housed in tents. But this town is legendary for a massive hotel, but not just one hotel. The hotel we're sitting in now, the Crazy Water Hotel, but also the Baker Hotel. So how did we go from basically settlement, where people came and settled here because of the curative nature of the water from this well, to now we have a hotel that you can see coming for miles around? And just the explosion that happened in Mineral Wells and how we went from Crazy Water to famous water, because Mineral Wells is famous, and the Baker Hotel and the Crazy Water, and all this that sprung up around that.
So those are kind of different things all kind of coming into one. So there were so many people coming here, and so Mineral Wells, it continued to grow. And then it became one of the premier spa resort towns in all of southern United States. And so there were, in the height of the mineral water era in Texas, there were probably 17, 20 different towns across the state that were doing things with water. And it could have been like a hot spring or other mineral waters. Like Marlin, for instance, has like, they had hot springs that people would come and soak. Their mineral content isn't near like what ours is. But so Mineral Wells, just out of all the different spa cities, did it best, did it good, and people got just different results. And so when you're looking, because like you don't have like vitamins and supplements like you do today, and so it was just a really easy way to get some of those micronutrients that weren't in your diet. Because you couldn't just go to the store and get potatoes or oranges or apples like 12 months out of the year, and so you had a little bit of nutrient deficiencies, and so that water, the mineral waters, helped kind of fill in some of those gaps in people's health. And so people would come here and they would like a lot of them were farmers and agricultural workers, and so you work seasons, and so the seasons that you weren't harvesting or planting, you had typically kind of off, and so they'd go to places like this and spend a season drinking the water, taking baths in the water. All of our bathhouses, there were like 10 of them at one time, each one had its own form of entertainment. Like here at the Crazy Water Bar, it was a gaming parlor, and so people would just belly up to the bar, and you'd buy like a water card, and you would get your glass of water for the day, and you would play shuffleboard on these beautiful floors, or play like the game of 42 was actually invented in Garner, Texas, which is just right down the road. And it was played a lot here, and it carried across the country as a game because people would come here on trains, and so they'd come here, they learn how to play 42, and they would teach it to people on the trains as they would leave and go back to wherever they live. So Mineral Wells it's such beautiful topography. It's a beautiful place to come to. The waters had so many different types of applications as far as like what people would use it for different ailments. And then I don't know, maybe we just we're just very hospitable, so a lot of people came here, so that's kind of why it grew so big. And then so with Famous and Crazy, and so we have basically two different companies, and so two different historical companies that have a huge place in not just Mineral Wells history, but Texas history. And so you have the Famous Mineral Water Company, which was kind of our parent company, and it was founded in 1904 by a pharmacist. His name was Ed Dismuke, and he was from Waco. His legend or his story goes that he was originally given like a year to live. He had some kind of stomach ailment. Being a pharmacist, he didn't know of anything, or his doctors didn't know anything to help him. And he even wrote apothecary books for different pharmacists, and also like home books as well, home remedy books. And so he came here, tried out the water, was supposedly cured, went back to Waco, sold his pharmacy, and came back here the next year and started the Famous. And so that was started in 1904. And so the Famous is where our pavilion is now, where people come in, they bring their own jugs, they fill up their own gallons of water. And you visit the site, visit the wells. So it's the oldest continuous operating mineral water company, and I think one of the only ones left in the state of Texas, and one of the only handful of ones left in the United States.
Wow. And
so it's been in operation since 1904, and he made lots of different types of products since he was a pharmacist. And so he kind of manipulated the waters in different ways, and he made like eye baths. He made like the big giant bottle in front of the store is called Pronto Lax, and so it was like super concentrated. Like they take the water and they boil it down to like 5 or 10 times the concentrate, and then you take a little jigger of it, and get your dose of minerals for the day. He also made, like when he made his crystals, he made his different than most of the other companies, because like when you dehydrate the same. Scott and I, my husband, were both Aggies, and so when we first bought the company like 25 years ago, we're like, yeah, we're Aggies, we sell dehydrated water. I
love that. But So I guess Crazy Water though. Crazy was what was on the dehydrated water, the powder, the crystals,
so
right?
Famous had its own branded products, and Crazy did too. So they were two completely different companies, and so at one time both of them were nationally distributed. Like Famous Water products and Crazy Water products were shipped all over across the country. And so what happened is, like in the 1930s and 40s, kind of American consumer needs kind of changed. Prescription drugs became readily available. We went from the farm to a factory, so people didn't travel as much. They don't have that season anymore to come and relax, take a bath, and take the waters. And then also prescription drugs, travel time, and there was a third one. I forgot what it was. Oh my gosh. Anyway, so things changed.
Yeah.
And so in the original Crazy Water Company, it went out of business.
Okay.
And so in the 1940s, and so the trademark rights lapsed on that Crazy trademark in the 1970s, and that's when Famous picked them up. And so from like the 1970s until 2000, you would pick up a bottle and it would have Famous logo and Crazy Water logo on it.
Really?
And that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is.
So that's what we inherited.
So it's both.
It's both. It's Famous and it's Crazy. And so we left it that way for the first couple of years because we didn't know what to do with it. And, they both had such a strong part of like our town's history. You don't want either one of them to fall away or be forgotten. And so we kind of left it that way. And then finally, when we started taking it back into distribution and putting it on the grocery store shelf, you obviously can't have a bottle with two different labels on
people
it.
Are saying, what do we call this stuff?
Yeah, so when people come in the store, we can explain. It's a little bit crazy, a little confusing. It has two logos on. Here's why.
Yeah.
But you can't do that to every consumer on the shelf. So we did our own little internal marketing. We're like, so if you were a famous person, would you rather like to have a bottle of Crazy Water or be carrying a Famous Water? And like, well, you're already famous, so we'll just go Crazy.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So that was very in-depth marketing on that decision.
I like that. So we're going to get into kind of the modern era of Crazy Water here in a little bit and talk about what it is, how in the world you guys came to own such a legendary brand. We'll get into that in a little bit. We'll also talk more about this big Crazy Water Festival that's coming up very soon and get the details on that for you one more time when we come back here. Normally, this would be where I start talking about Crazy Water, but we're doing that already. So we're going to let you hear from our other sponsor, the East Texas Oil Museum, right now.
Do you love history? Do you ever wonder about the way things were almost 100 years ago in East Texas? Visit the Kilgore College East Texas Oil Museum to learn about the men and women who lived during the East Texas oil boom of the 1930s. Step back in time and visit Boomtown, USA, the life-size diorama of a town booming in oil. Step inside the general store and visit the shopkeeper. Head to the theater to watch the Great Oil Boom movie. And no visit would be complete without taking a quick journey on the elevator ride to the center of the earth to learn about all of the geology of the East Texas oil field. The East Texas Oil Museum is now open Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. with last entry at 4 p.m. For more information, visit kilgore.edu/oil museum or find us on all the socials.
We are back here on Expedition Texas, the podcast. I'm Bob Malden, joined by our guest today, Carol Elder from Crazy Water. Now, we talk about Crazy Water each and every week here on the podcast, and we've done the story on Expedition Texas. We've come and seen you guys for that. We've done some videos for you on Main Street Reborn where we talk about the business and where to find you downtown and all that. But the story, I think, that's probably the most interesting is how in the world you and your husband came to own this legendary brand that's such a part of Mineral Wells and is directly connected to this even being a town.
That is correct. So Scott and I were much younger than we are now. So we started having a family. We were living in Houston, and we decided that's not where we wanted to raise our family. It was just a little too large for us.
Okay.
And wanted a little bit smaller, slower pace of life. And so we started looking and at different places in Mineral Wells. And I used to be a landscape freelance designer, and then Scott's an attorney. And so we were looking for him to basically work in the Metroplex, and that was going to do freelance work and kind of do stuff in the Fort Dallas area.
Okay.
And we were looking at different buildings downtown, and just to put in a little studio, kind of have like a little European kind of situation, and studio and living above. And the Famous was actually came up for sale at that time.
Okay.
And so for us, it was like for the same amount of money, we can buy that, or we can buy a downtown business. And so it was kind of operational. We could buy the little house next door for the same amount of money as we could buy a downtown building. And so we had to put together a proposal to the historic foundation. They were the ones that were selling it at the time. And so you kind of had to put together a proposal of where your vision was, that you wanted to take Crazy Water and Famous Water. And we were chosen. So we packed up and moved back to Mineral Wells, which is my hometown.
So, so that I was going to ask you what got you looking here, but so at that point in time, what was Crazy Water doing? I know you said that at the time you got it, when we were speaking earlier, you said that they had the kind of double branded labels on it. Were they distributing? Were people just coming here and buying it there? What was going on with it at that time?
They so at that time it was open like 3 half days a week, and so they were in between in-store walk-ins and delivery, doing about $30 a day.
Whoa.
And so it was most...
And you're thinking, boy, this is a great business idea. Let's...
Well, at the time, we were really just going to promote, like, heritage tourism. And so really promote the story. This is the location. It has, like... And we put in the beautiful gardens there. And we were doing a lot of...
Which that was your area of expertise, right?
That was my area of expertise. Yeah. And so we put in the gardens, and in the back area, which is now the bathhouse, it used to be our house. And so we lived there for the first 10 years. And then... So in our backyard, our kids grew up with having these live music and dinner. And so on every Friday night from like May to whenever it turned 100, and then again in the fall, we would have live music and dinner, and then we would kind of host different parties, and just it was historical tourism, just kind of keeping it alive. And through that, people started learning that it was back open again, more readily available, and started coming back in and taking the waters again. And this is also before you could like Google search things so easily.
Right. Yeah. So
and so you're kind of just going off old wives' tales of you have all these pamphlets that said they used to drink the water for X or Y or Z, and but once the internet, it says how old we are, right? Started coming back into like common use, or coming into common use. You're able to like Google like body's use of sodium bicarbonate, which is like the number one thing in the water. And it's like if you Google that, you get like 4 million hits of it's a natural antacid. And so you're like, okay, well that starts making sense. And so it really wasn't that it was curing anything. It was like I said before, filling in nutritional gaps.
Yes.
Is that where you may not get enough calcium or magnesium or bicarbonate soda to really, counter the other different things. And so that's really what that water was doing for them. Yeah.
And so back then they didn't know what it was. They just knew they felt better.
They knew they felt better. So
and ailments were easing, things, especially those stomach things that you're talking about, and people could find out now why that was happening.
Yeah, and so like the water contains like just trace amounts of lithium, and so you then Google like body's use of lithium. It's like, oh, it's for bipolar, and so that's like, oh, that was probably the crazy lady.
Hey, there you go. Well, there's so yeah. I said we were going to get a little sciencey earlier, and we're going to dip in and out of science as we go through this thing because of and the thing that I noticed is on all the different numbers, and I want to explain for those who don't know what all the different numbers mean. I've done my own rudimentary explanation.
You're a great brand ambassador
of what it is that we're dealing with here, but. You, knowing all, can tell us more about what the different numbers mean. But each one of these has on the label the mineral content, which I love that. And I guess you guys test it fairly regularly to make sure that you're maintaining that with every different well. But the numbers, let's start with that and then kind of go into this mineral content layout that's on the bottles.
So with the numbers, like when you would come here in the early 1900s, you'd probably come to here to this bar, and they would have four different wells here at the hotel. That's why like that one, I don't know if that was the one that they have marked. You don't know if that's the original one, the second one, the third one, the sixth one, but it is one of the ones that was actually originally used by the hotel.
Okay.
And so they had waters that were labeled 1 through 4. The higher the number, the higher the mineral content. And so when you would come and you would go into one of these beautiful offices, there's doctor's offices here on this ground floor, and they would say, okay, for your ailment, you need to drink 2 glasses of 3 and 1 glass of 4. Or, you're
really,
yeah. So they
were prescribing water
by the number, and so and it kind of just depicted the level of mineral that's in the water. And so, again, we started taking the water back into distribution. When we got the company, it was basically you had RO, you had deep well, you had crazy high mineral. And so, but that doesn't really tell a consumer a whole lot. And so we just kind of brought back the whole numbering system again.
Okay.
And so we have 3 different levels that we get the water from. And so number 1 is the purified water. It's the number 3. We take most of the minerals out of it. When we first bought the company, for every 100 gallons of water that we sold, 95 of them were reverse osmosis. 5 were mineral of the other 2 combined.
Really?
Because people didn't want their water to have a flavor. They, the big marketing gimmick back then was purified water, purified water, purified water.
Okay.
There's science now that proves that, well, you probably shouldn't have been drinking all that purified water. It wasn't that the water was missing the fluoride. It's like when you purify that water, it becomes very acidic. And so it's like if you have a water that's an acidity of like a 5, it's like having a sucker in your mouth. And so the water itself was eating the enamel off your teeth.
Oh, wow.
And so
it's not good.
No, so it wasn't really that it was missing fluoride. It was just that it was other properties of that water that were doing things. Anyway. Another subject. I kind of got distracted.
Yeah, we were talking about numbers and what those numbers mean. But yeah, so so you took us through that there was the purified water was selling first, but then now it seems that
it's the total opposite.
Yeah.
So now, so it's we sell very little purified water, and it's not a bad water. It's a great premium water because we purify it and we put a little mineral back in there to raise the pH up a little bit more. So it's kind of healthier than what your typical purified water is. But what our wheelhouse is really those mineral waters. And so the depth of the earth is where you get the different levels and combinations of those minerals.
You explained that to me before,
so nothing can.
So yeah, tell me how that works, because that's pretty basic stuff that we should all probably have learned in maybe 7th grade science or something like
Earth
that.
Science,
yeah. So there's some stuff there that people will understand about the depth of the wells.
So like where Mineral Wells is, it's like very unique as far as like the water that you get from the wells, and it's because of there used to be like ancient oceans, and so right on this edge, and so the water would come in and it would kind of get stuck in the valley and evaporate, and then you have sandstorms that come in, so you have just like layers of sands and silts in this valley from where the waters would get trapped, and so that is what has formed these very unique mineral beds, and it's like this way all over Texas. But if you notice when you go back to where you live, and as you go to Dallas, it gets really flat. As you go west, it gets really flat. Where Mineral Wells is, we're on like a minor fault line, and so we call this the Palo Pinto Mountains. Don't come here for a ski resort, but it is called the Palo Pinto Mountains. You have fissure, and so where a fault line is, you have a fissure, and so when it rains, instead of like raining on a piece of like new concrete where it just puddles and goes off to the sides, it's like an old sidewalk where the water actually goes through the different the cracks in the sidewalk and comes into the earth. And so when the rain comes through the different fissures and cracks of the rock, it is able to go through all these different types of sand beds and pick up all these different minerals. And so depending on the depth of in the pocket that you're pulling from, kind of depends on the type of water you're getting.
Okay.
And so to be a true mineral water, you can't ever add anything to it. And so it has to have a total dissolved solid count of at least 250. And so all of ours are well beyond that. And so our number 2 is our lowest, and it kind of averages at about 700, 700 to 800. And then number 3 is about 1,000 to 1,100 is its average, and number 4 is over 2,000. And so number 4 is one of the strongest ones actually bottled in the world. It's
Really?
right here in Mineral Wells, Texas.
Very cool. So this is a 25-year investment, in not your time, your marketing acumen, which you guys have done a great job with that.
Thank you.
And this now, I mean, it's a very distinctive label. I mean, nobody's going to miss it. In fact, it's even printed sideways so they can make it bigger. Crazy Water, and you have the numbers to go on. And I think that we've done a way better job than I did of explaining what all these numbers mean and why, and which ones if you're what you're interested in getting out of your water, which one you should choose. And I drink a lot of number 4. I will tell you that. And it was when and I remember there was a time we were sitting at the pavilion and trying the different numbers, and you were telling me about it. And I remember tasting it and thinking, that is very different. It was almost like it had a thickness, and I know that's my imagination, but it felt like it had a texture to it. Yeah,
and for mouthfeel.
Really, yeah, and I believe that because that was something that I noticed right off the bat about it, and then I thought, I'm going to dive right in. What if I just drank a whole bottle of this? And I did, and I love it.
And then drive back to Tyler.
Yeah, it's my favorite. So yes, I definitely keep number 4 selling in East Texas where we're stationed, because that's my favorite. But I love the story. I love the fact that the Mineral Wells has so much that makes it famous. But the big thing, of course, which originally the thing that brought people here originally, is still coming out of Mineral Wells, and is still bringing people here all the time. And a big reason that people need to come here very soon is because of this Crazy Water Festival that's just around the corner. And let's tell them all about that again. It's starting very soon on the 10th. Tell us about that.
So the Crazy Water Festival this year is going to be the 44th annual festival. And so it's a Towns Festival, and it's just a great community effort. We'll have about 8,000 to 10,000 people come out and join us for this little community event. And we partner with different nonprofits throughout the county. And if someone comes to me, they're like, "Hey, I have a really good idea for you. You should add this to the festival." I'm like, "You know what? You should get your group together and you make that happen."
That's right. Do that. Let's just do it.
And so that's how we're able to do so many fun different things at the festival, because everyone has their own volunteer group to help organize and execute. And kind of what we do, we after they pay all their bills for whatever event they've done, they donate 10% of that back to the festival, and those are the funds that we use to put on the festival every year.
Cool. And you bring in some pretty big names. Tell us about this year's entertainment.
Yeah, so this year we have our big headliner is the Josh Abbott Band, and then Grant Gilbert is going to open up for him on Thursday night. Saturday we have another full lineup of great musicians. We have the Buffalo Ruckus out of McKinney, and then we have Cutthroat Finches out of Fort Worth, Matt Tedder, who's a great country singer-songwriter, and then one of our favorites, Jimmy Baldwin. So Jimmy is a good kind of Americana. He has some roots from Mineral Wells as well. So
very cool. Not to mention here in Mineral Wells, great state park. If you want to bring the camper and hang out here for the weekend.
So many things. So we were just named the wellness capital of Texas.
That's amazing.
And the water is a part of that, but the water is just a part of that, because you have you can go canoeing, kayaking. We have 3 state parks. So we have Strawn State Park that's about to open up. Okay. And then we have a fossil park, one of the only fossil parks you can actually take fossils from, take them with you. Yeah. And it used to be our old city dump, and it's that is its own podcast, just how that came about.
That we may have to come back and do this again.
It's the dump, the trash is covered up.
Yeah.
But it's just but every time it rains, it unsurfaces a new crop of fossils that no one's seen before.
Look, Mom, I found a fossil of a sardine can. What is that? No, that's
so it's like the excavation pit, because they had to cover up the trash, so they had to excavate and cover up the trash. And so it's just, after we didn't use our own city dump, it was like this excavation pit continued to erode and then unsurface just they said there's like probably 100 to 150 years worth of fossils depth-wise in that little pocket.
Wow.
And so it's just a treasure trove. People come in and like you take your kids and you can spend hours out there. And literally like every time it rains, you have new fossils that no one else has ever seen.
That's awesome.
It is awesome.
That's awesome. Have to check that out. There's so much to do and see in
And then
Mineral Wells.
Clark Gardens is
Yeah.
a botanical park just east of town. And being a gardener, it's one of my favorite gardens in the whole state of Texas. It's
Awesome.
the owners of it had a love for gardening, and so when they sold their business and retired, they built this amazing botanical park, picking some of their favorite gardens throughout the world and adapted them all to Texas natives. It's incredible.
Incredible stuff. And it's all here in Mineral Wells.
here in
and
Mineral Wells.
You can stay at the Crazy Water Hotel. You can visit all the great shops down here. You can stop off at the Crazy Water Coffee Bar. You can head over and fill the back of your car up with Crazy Water while you're here. One thing I wanted to mention and get an updated list from you as to what stores folks can find Crazy Water these days.
So we're at about 900 retail locations. And so on our website, it's drinkcrazywater.com. If you go to find us, I believe, and you type in your zip code, it'll populate the stores nearest to you.
Okay,
And so,
good.
yeah.
So now in all these stores all across, really, I would say Texas, but really the South. And
We're primarily Texas. Will
You got the
hold
goat.
true to that.
You got the Go Texan on here somewhere. Are you used to?
Oh, we used to.
Okay.
We don't have it anymore.
Yeah, but so anyway, you can pick up Crazy Water at your nearest Texas store, which we're all about because we're Expedition
Yeah.
Texas, and get your Crazy Water. But I definitely recommend making the trip out here.
Yeah, so
They just need
Crazy
to
Water
come.
is like fingering out to different states, and as they discover it, and they love it as much as Texans do. But we're a strong Texas brand, and we'll always serve Texas first.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you for being on the podcast. We've been talking about doing this for a long time. We were
Thank
kind
you
of
for having me.
Planning it because we've been talking about Crazy Water as a sponsor of the podcast for so long. But the reason that we wanted you as a sponsor is because the story.
Oh, thank you.
And it's history. It's
a good
Texas
partnership,
history.
yeah.
I think it's a good thing. That's what we love and care about is Texas history. And a lot of times we're looking around in abandoned buildings and places that you can't go. But when we come to Mineral Wells, a lot of the places we visit when we come to Expedition Texas are places that we would love for you to come check out. And this hotel, this brand, the famous water company. What's the address where they can visit that?
It's 209 Northwest 6th Street.
Okay, 209 Northwest 6th Street, and go by and they can bring their own jugs and fill them there.
Yeah, you can bring your own jugs there. We fill up anything a gallon and larger.
Awesome.
5-gallon jugs in glass. Up to 5 gallon. We don't do the 6 gallon because they're too heavy, too dangerous.
Okay.
But we also offer tours. Like you can do a tour there on Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. We do like a 45-minute walking tour, and then on Saturdays 10 and 3.
So I can't bring my Home Depot bucket and y'all fill it up.
We can. It's
Too
5.
big?
It's 5. That's 5
Okay.
gallons. Yeah.
Oh, 5 gallons.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah,
okay.
just
Nothing over 6.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
okay.
the glass ones. Once
yes.
Because like the just the glass alone is so heavy. Once you get past a 5-gallon glass, it's just like, it's like
imagine.
70 pounds.
Yeah.
And so it's like,
that's like carrying out a person.
And then it gets wet, it gets slippery, and and then you have glass.
Yeah. And there's lots of cool souvenirs in the shop, lots of cool Crazy Water things, Mineral Wells goodies over there as well.
Yeah, we do lots of swag. We try not to do anything that's not made in Texas. We partner with a lot of Texas artists to make really unique merch and souvenir items that you can't just buy at a regular kitschy little souvenir shop.
Right.
So
we
have pottery that's hand thrown. We have a local artist who does Christmas ornaments for us, and so she makes these the beautiful, most happiest Santas, and they're always with some kind of Crazy Water with them. And and then she makes the paintings, and then we send them off to an ornament company in Hawaii, and they actually print everything on the ornament, make the ornaments, and send them back to us. So It's
Very
just
nice.
very unique things.
Cool
that we-
stuff.
yeah.
The good stuff, folks.
Yeah.
You can shop over at the pavilion at the Famous Water Company. And Carol, thank you so much for partnering with us on the podcast. It's kind of a new venture for us, a new thing to try. You've partnered with us in the past on the TV show, and I just, like I said, Mineral Wells is like a second home to us now. We're here so much.
You're
and-
always welcome.
Yeah, thank you. And you're welcome too, folks. You need to come out and visit as soon as you possibly can, and lots of great things coming up in the future. And here's to the next 25 years of Crazy Water.
Here's to the next. Here's to the next 25 years.
Cheers. All right. Well, Carol Elder, thanks for being our guest here on Expedition Texas, the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
And be sure to tune in again next week. More excellent lost history right here, and we'll be talking to you about that next time. For Carol Elder, I'm Bob Malden, and we'll see you next time.